Yo, what up? It's Chad Shanks, Bike-Geek. It's 2021. We finally get to race our bikes again. This is the Gambler Crit #1. This is the 3-4 race, and we're getting started here. Nerves were high, tension was high. The field was sold out at 50 riders, I believe. The weather was perfect. And so this is a mixed field of riders. A lot of people getting off Swift. Been riding indoor a lot. You could definitely tell through the day there's a lot of crashes in almost all the races. And so it's pretty wild. So we're getting started here, lap 1. And I am just kind of like, I'm going to settle in. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some crashes. We got a 1, 2, 3 race later on in the evening, so I usually do a little better in the longer races because, I'm old. And so I'm just trying to chill, trying to stay safe. I got 2 teammates in the field, Aaron Wright, Will Nollert, both riding pretty good, Will especially. And they're going to try to be a bit more animated than I am in this race. My whole deal was I'm going to weld anything back that we miss. And so that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm just trying to get warmed up because I got an old body, 41. And it takes me a while to get the motor going. I probably didn't do enough warm up. And right now I'm like, oh man, what was I thinking? It's my buddy Ryan going up on the right hand side. Ryan's going really good, so he's a guy to be watching out for in the future. I think I see Tate and Parker in there somewhere, and other riders that we all know really well. So this first turn #1, pretty sketchy. It's got a dumpster on the outside. This next turn, quite a few people had trouble with it. It was pretty clean on the inside, a little bumpy on the inside, pretty clean on the outside. I saw some riders skip a rear wheel, clip a pedal. I think somebody hit a curb pretty hard, so a few crashes there. Course was sweet though. Really felt like an actual crit course to me. Good times. So I'm just moving up here because obviously splits are happening. This is probably a bit of a disparity between the really fit Cat 3 riders and the Cat 4 riders who are probably hanging on for dear life. This turn right here, turn 3, a little sketchy. Had some dust in the corner, a ditch on the outside, a little off camber, kind of weird. This corner you could pretty much rail flat out. You could pedal through the whole thing and take it wide if you had to. A little bit of a weird, they taped off the road in the middle. Really good job from the race promoter standpoint. They put a lot of work into this race. You could tell it was really well organized. Traffic was blocked off. They had police officers. They had porta potties. I mean, they had worked with the businesses. Hats off to the race promoters. I mean, this is a massive amount of work they did to get this thing going. So glad to see they had a good turnout because they definitely worked hard. So we're getting going here. I think we're about 3.5 minutes in or something like that, and nothing's really happening yet. I can't really see the front of the race. And so I'm not totally sure what's going, but I know there's not a breakaway at this moment, so I'm not terribly worried. And I know I've got Will and Aaron to kind of cover stuff, but I'm just kind of chilling and sitting in. So we'll just hang out, see what happens here. It's pretty pointy on the front end of the race. We're going pretty fast. I think for the night, my computer said I averaged around 26.6 in this race, I want to say. And I believe I had a normalized power of around 309, so not the highest effort I've put out, definitely a significant effort, but a pretty high average pace, and I think that's just a result of having a big field and being able to go fast and being able to take advantage of the draft. So I saw an opportunity to move up here, so I'm taking it. A little bit of a lull. Not stuffing in anybody for an inside line there. And then there you'll see my teammate Aaron on my right hand side. He's got that super sweet stealth mirror. He's kind of a dark horse. A lot of people don't know who he is. He's a father of 3. doesn't train a whole lot, but is when he does train, it's smart, and he's able to carry a whole lot of fitness with just making sure that his focus is good all the time. So works hard, takes care of his kids, super good dude. All right, so about 5 minutes in now. Everyone's heart rate's pretty jacked. Most people are definitely starting to settle in. You're starting to see a few gaps open up through turns. So definitely some fatigue starting to settle in. You see a gap kind of going there. I'm a little bit worried about this gap that's opening up on the front right now. And I can see that I've got Aaron there, and I think that Will at this point is behind me, which is a mistake that I am currently making. So I think I know where Aaron is. He's obviously right here in front of me, and I thought I had Will behind me at this point. So far so good, nice and smooth, and everyone's kind of minding their P's and Q's. Everything's going like it should be. Just racing as usual. It was a pretty mixed field. We had some teams that were pretty well represented. Center, we had 3 total guys. Hodges Bend, I think, had 3 guys. This Kingdom Coffee had a few. And Bike Lab had, obviously, Emerson and Dempsey. And that was kind of the focus, honestly. Emerson and Dempsey are clearly, at any ride they go to, some of the fittest guys out on the ride. They should have their upgrade points at any minute. I don't track other people's points, so I couldn't tell you what it is, but I can't imagine that they're not close to having their Cat 2 upgrades at this point. They both have Cat 1 fitness, so we knew, a brake's probably not going to work without them, so let's make sure that we cover those guys and at least get in a break with them. And if we need to, work with them, but don't do too much work because they're so strong. They'll probably just roll us off their wheel if we work too much. So we wanted to make sure it stuck, but obviously wanted to have a fighting chance at the finish line as well. So play fair, play nice, but also ride smart. And at this point, no breakaway has really been successful yet, which was actually a little bit surprising to me. I really thought that a break would go super early, if not on the first lap, because the turns were a little bit tricky, and definitely I thought there would be opportunity for someone to sneak away. But what I didn't expect was that everyone would carry as much fitness as they did this year. I can definitely tell a lot of people have been probably racing on Zwift and really putting the time in. We got an attack going up the left-hand side of the road. I'm not really sure who that is. You can see the winds out of the north today, so that flag's sailing to the left. So these riders on the right are not getting much of a draft. I'm trying to be mindful of the wind conditions. As they say, as you get older, you got to ride smarter. So, and then I think nope, not this lap, but pretty soon we'll see a crash going through that turn. I'm not really sure what happens. I think the kid maybe clipped a pedal or something, but oh, I missed it. I guess it already happened. So it happened on a previous lap. I just did not see it. So there was a breakaway gone, and like I said earlier, I thought that Aaron and Will was behind me, and Ryan, who's a good buddy, he doesn't race on our team yet, but he had let me know that Emerson and Dempsey were up the road, and I'm thinking that I've got both of my guys still in the field, and so I get to the front and I'm going to try to weld it back. So huge effort, and they're clearly way up the road. And then something weird happened. Some other guys took a free lap. and I'll keep my comments to myself on whether or not they should have gotten a free lap. But the breakaway went from a small amount of riders to a big amount of riders, we'll just put it that way. So it gets a little confusing here, and so now I'm just going to try to keep driving it to get that breakaway close enough to what I thought was going to be trying to launch Will or Aaron across to it. So I'm definitely going deep. I know that there's some big horsepower up there, and if I don't do it sooner than later, it's not going to happen, and the course really would have lended itself well to lapping the field if you weren't careful. So I didn't want to let them get away, but rookie mistake on my part. So which is really embarrassing to admit, but it happened. I didn't know that Will made it into the breakaway, so I'm currently chasing my own teammate, which is like the #1 rule, like never chase your teammate. But I'm doing it right here, and I'll admit it. And then some attacks go around me because some guys feel like we're close enough to maybe jump across. We're not, but they go for it rather than pulling through, which would have been the smart thing to do to get us all a little bit closer, because none of these guys have a teammate up the road. But you know, everyone wants to give it a go. So then shortly after this, my teammate comes up to me and lets me know here in a little while that, hey, we got a guy up the road. And right here, so this is also kind of a thing that you shouldn't do. If you're going to jump the guy that just pulled everyone for 2 laps, don't open up a gap when you come around. So now I've got to close this gap back, which was a bit frustrating, I'm not going to lie. If we would have let that group go and they would have organized, they certainly could have caught the break and been a potential threat. So I don't want to let that go. I want to sit on and get that draft and try to disrupt this chase now. And you can see the break's not that far up the road also, so I'm going to definitely try to smash and kill this. I'm not sure who this rider in the KCBC jersey is, but that dude's pretty strong, I have to say. He put in some pretty good digs, and if he would have found himself in the breakaway, I'm pretty sure he could have survived it no problem. But as it was, he missed the move, which was really caused by a split in the field from an early crash that I thought I had on camera, but I guess it didn't show up. Or if I missed it, just comment and let me know what the time was on that, because I totally didn't see it, but it's probably because I was in the back of the field. So now that I know that I have a guy up the field, I'm just going to be sitting near the front, try to stay there, and as things try to go, I'm just going to jump to it and make sure that if anything's going across, that I'm on it, and or that Aaron is, one of the two, and just to make sure that nothing gets up the road and jeopardizes a potential podium finish for us. So I'm just looking around, making sure no one's jumping, and yeah, just kind of living right here now at the moment. So when you got a guy up the road, you know, sometimes you have to work really hard. You got to make sure that things don't go and slip away, and so that can sometimes mean interval after interval. Aaron's kind of communicating with me right there, like, we got Will up the road, let's I guess we just need to sit up here kind of a thing, like, Are we good with that? Yeah, we're good with that. So let's just try to manage everything that's going on up here. So that's the trick. By the way, y'all, this is the first time that I've done any voiceover stuff, so if I sound really dumb, it's because I'm not good at it. So I'll work on it and try to get better at it in the future. I'm not like as good as Jeff from NorCal Cycling, so Aaron, just letting that rider know, hey, I'm right here. Don't worry, don't freak out. Just real smooth. People do that sometimes. Don't take it personal. People did it to me in this race. They tap you on the hip just to let you know I'm right here. It's a kosher move. It's one of those things where you're just trying to let someone know I'm safe, you're safe, we're all good, bro. Some people get upset about that, but it's not that big of a deal. The only thing you really got to get upset about is when somebody dives in on you, takes out your front wheel, and doesn't give you any notice. That's usually the thing that's pretty upsetting. So, for the other riders in the field right now that don't have someone represented up the road, this is where you should be trying to set your guys up. Like, I'm not going to name any names, but there's definitely some teams here that don't have anyone. Move your guys to the front. Start time trialing. Launch someone across. Try anything. But at this point, the game's up the road, so you got to try something. And just sending off flyers one at a time is not going to work unless you've got just a huge, like 4.5 to 5 watt per kilo power number, which in that case, you'd already be up the road. So you need to kind of know where you're at, fitness-wise and team-wise. So, at this point, if you don't have someone, like, you need to be driving it and burning matches and trying to at least get your one representation up the road. So, it's always frustrating to me. I used to race as a 2 for a long time, really long time, and seeing how team tactics work, and now that I race as a 3, it's always tough for me to watch these tactics play out sometime. And in my head, a lot of times there's a whole lot of, are you kidding me? That's not going to work. But I do know that for some people, they might be new to this field and learning for the first time kind of how to do that. But at this moment, nothing's going on. Everyone's just kind of moving to the front and maybe pulling through, and someone might try a half-hearted attack and get 30 yards up off the front, and then they get brought back because the speed of the pack is high. So this is a time when you need to make frenemies. Like, if you have no one up the road, and you have, like this KCBC rider here on the left, he's going to make a go for it. Super strong, and honestly could have been in the brake, no problem, but because of the amount of horsepower in the brake, there's just no way that he's going to get across on his own. And maybe that's because I don't know if he might not be from this area. I'm not really sure who that is, and maybe he didn't know who was in the brake. But when you got the riders like who is up there currently, it's pretty clear that you would need a different tactic to get up there, and you'd need to make some type of an alliance, and be like, hey, work with me and let's try to bring this back. Because at this point, it's kind of futile, right? Like there's I want to say they push like 9 guys into a 3-guy breakaway or something like that, or 10 guys or something. So the breakaway is actually pretty big now, and I'm not sure if they did pay out, honestly, but I know that as the Gambler Series goes, if you read the flyer, there's points for the top 10 places. So at this point, we're racing for nothing. If you don't have a guy in the field, you are absolutely wasting your time. So you need to be full in. you need to really try to do something and make it happen. And that's when you need to start talking to the riders around you and be really clear about your intentions. And you need to just straight up ask them, if you don't know, do you have a guy up the road? Do you have a guy up the road? And just start finding guys that don't have a guy. If you're a team and you don't have a guy up the road, move your guys to the front, and y'all need to be thinking about that constantly. So thankfully we have a guy up the road, and no one's doing that or making those alliances, which is just totally fine with me. So all we have to do, me and Aaron, you can see we're riding in the front and we're just policing. That's literally all we're doing. We're just as things go, we're just not letting them slip away. So as if no one's closing the gap, we're going to close it if we can, and monitor attacks, and if they look threatening, we go with them. This one looked a little bit threatening to me because they had some speed built up, so I just jump across, but then this rider right here in front of me sees it too. He goes on, so I just jump to his wheel, and I'm not going to pull through for these guys. I'm going to sit right here, and I'm going to let them do a lot of work and flounder off the front, and they're just going to come back just like always, which is really frustrating if you don't have a teammate or if you're not working with your team. I've been on that end of it hundreds of times. So just going to kill and smash. As you turned into this left turn, that was kind of a block headwind, so it was always kind of a brutal turn. And if you were off solo like that rider just was, you pretty much have second thoughts about everything you just did the half lap before as soon as you hit that headwind. And then in this crosswind, everybody's sitting in echelon, getting a nice draft. So usually that's when you pull the plug because it hurts. Got another rider that's going to make a go for it, but solo single rider with the brake pretty far up the road, not terribly worried about that one. Just going to let that roll. At this point, if a rider can make it across solo, they kind of deserve it. I'm more interested in not letting 3 or 4, 5 riders go, and I'm not super confident that a solo rider is going to make it across by themselves at this point, this late in the race. I think we were racing for about 30-35 minutes or something like that. I don't honestly remember, but pretty short race, so they're running out of real estate on whether or not they'll make it across, honestly. So Ryan, you can see rolling through the front there, these 2 riders that are following his wheel should be rotating for him and trying to peel that back. I don't think either one of these guys had representation up the road, so Ryan's putting in a pretty big dig and really doing the work to keep it motivated on the front, and these guys are not following the wheel, not rolling through. So that's working out really well for me because we don't want anyone to motivate on the front, but finally this rider's going to pull through for Ryan. I'm going to come through also while he rolls to the back. He's riding really strong, just so everybody knows. Also could have been in the breakaway, no problem. And that rider that made that solo effort looks like he's going to be coming back to us now. It was real confusing also because there were a lot of riders coming back, and a lot of times you couldn't tell, is this the guy that went or is this someone coming back from the breakaway, and why is there so many guys coming into the breakaway? Are lapped riders getting pulled? And so it got really confusing here towards the end. um, and yeah, like it got really hard to read. And what was really odd was some of the riders that they pushed into the breakaway were not riders that were anywhere near the break, but somehow got pushed in anyway. And so those riders got spit out pretty quickly. And then we were ended up, kind of, it looked like we were lapping them basically. Like the rider on the right that we just saw on the right hand side of the screen, I don't know if he was a lapped rider or if he was coming back out of the break or what the story was, but now we've got the peloton's pretty motivated at this point. I think we've got the lap counter. We'll check it out when we come through on the next start finish line area, but definitely you can see the pack's getting a little more motivated to try to do some fast riding, if you will, but still no real organization. Nobody's really setting up their teammates to launch them across. Just a lot of efforts, but not really anything that's calculated at this point. So I want to kind of move myself back up in queue and look to the left, and we should see the lap counter. Couldn't read it, so I'm not really sure how many laps we have left, but I want to say we're under 5 right now at this point. Yeah, I was really impressed in this field. Everyone rode pretty safe. There wasn't a whole lot of like bumping or sketchy turning or anything like that. That guy in front of me did just chop me in the turn pretty hard, and then opened up a gap. So I took it right back and just decided I'll just move myself forward. Got a couple of riders that are kind of making a go of it, trying to get across. We're probably a little late in the game right now, but they're kind of throwing a Hail Mary and going for it, and hoping that they'll get across. I gotta give them a hats off for that effort. That was a pretty solid effort. And they had a 50-50 shot on making that work, but there were some other riders that were kind of motivated to not let that happen. So they're going to peel that back also, it looks like, and now we're connecting to them. And this turn right here, like, it was really nice if you could connect just before this turn, because a lot of people were sticking the brakes on in that turn and you really didn't need to, or on this turn, either one. And so if you had a gap, ooh, it looks like you skipped a wheel on that one. If you had a gap, you could usually just not touch your brakes and just weld yourself right back on. So that was kind of nice. Now, watch this move that Ryan does. This is perfect. He jumps right before the sketchy turn, which totally read my mind on this one. And you could only go so fast for this turn, so if you were first into it, you were going to be first out of it for sure. This headwind was a bit questionable. He looked to see if anyone's going to jump him, and I thought, man, this is good. Now, if I was smart, I would have taken the left-hand line here, but there was somebody on my hip, so I had to go right, and I saw him sit down, so then I'd stand up, and he's a good buddy of mine, so felt a little guilty here, I'm not going to lie. I'm not sure who got who on the line, but the guy on the left and Ryan and myself had a pretty close run for the field sprint there, and that was it. So that's the Gambler 3-4 crit, and I believe Dempsey got first, and our teammate Will got third. I'm not really sure who got second. So a good day. We came back with the podium, and came back with our skin. So all in all, good ride.